Hello, welcome to another edition, an inspiring edition of Cracking the Rich Code, the podcast. I'm your host, John Verico, and once again, I am delighted to be here with some of the most amazing people on the planet who have been part of the Cracking the Rich Code book series. And today's guest is, again, no different. Well, yes, she is. Everybody's different and unique in their own way. And Tanja Bartolo is absolutely amazing. Wait till you get to meet her. You're going to love her. She's just very inspirational, a lot of positive, bouncy energy. You're going to really get into it. And she is one of the authors in the most recent edition out as of this recording, which is volume 20. And her chapter is A Dream to Remember. We're going to talk a little bit about what all that means. So, Tanja, welcome. Hi there.
Hello. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so glad we got this scheduled. We had some scheduled juggling going on there for a little while, but we finally got it together, and I'm so glad that we finally got together.
All in perfect timing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've got so much going on in your life. And so we'll talk a little bit about all those exciting things that are happening to you in the personal world as well as in the professional world. But let's talk just very briefly, because you have here a title underneath your name called the Soul Alchemist.
Mm.
So for someone who is maybe not attuned to what that means, explain what that means.
Well, the traditional, idea of alchemy, turning lead into gold, is really where that comes from in helping people being able to, and, it started with me, from a very arduous first couple chapters of my life and cultivating a lot of density, a lot of heaviness, really being able to turn that pain, childhood trauma, etc., into passion, into purpose, into helping others. So I really help guide in terms of transforming any of that
Mhm.
lead, that density, that heaviness into the goal of purpose, possibility, and living, the most meaningful life possible.
I love it. I love it. And I know in your description, you're kind of a pattern breaker. You help people kind of break out of those things that hold us back and kind of keep us feeling like lead instead of like gold. How, Tell us a little bit about that process, what that means too.
Well, we're all kind of born like blank iPhones. And in the first 7 years of life, we download every app we're going to use. And some of those are very useful and very helpful, and others we wish they wouldn't have been downloaded in the first place.
Yeah, I
And
know where
then
you're going.
exactly. And so then you go to remove it, uninstall it, and delete it, and yet there it comes back out of
Mhm.
nowhere, right? It's like, oh, I thought I deleted that thing. It's back. It's back. Why is it back? And so
Malicious malware.
exactly, exactly. So we're looking for the root of the root of the root of where this pattern came in. It could be, like I mentioned before, childhood trauma. It could be, being bullied. It could be, not having a strong cohesive family growing up, feeling like an outsider. It could, black sheep syndrome, whatever, right? Like we all have
Mhm.
our own stories.
Yes.
And, it's like if we learned how to drive a car one way and, we take a flight and we show up in London and we have to jump in a car and drive wide right away, our nervous systems are going to freak out. I don't know how to do this.
How to drive on the other side of the road. Yeah, the wrong side of the road. I tease my friends over there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So when we're collapsing a pattern or trying to change something, it can feel that uncomfortable at first because we don't know how to do life in the way that we were that we became accustomed to it. And so we're asking our whole systems to say, nope, we're going to stop that train, we're going to turn it around and go the other direction. And a lot of times with change processes, it'll go great for the first month, first 2 months, and then a year goes by and we're right back to where we started off. Well, why? So we're looking at the root of the root of the root and helping to pull the weeds, so to speak, from that area so they don't grow back.
I love it. What a fascinating way of approaching it, too. We all know that we have this, I'll call it baggage, that comes from other people, right? And the people who told us we weren't good enough, people that told us we weren't going to amount to anything, the people that uh, put us down or bullied. I was a bullied kid, so I understand all of that. And so we tend to limit ourselves based on these other people's opinions of who we are. And so helping to break that out, and that whole imposter syndrome thing too, all of that happens, we do have a tendency to kind of go back into it over and over again. I know I run into that wall myself many, many times as I start to do things, or something really good happens, and then there's a little piece of me in the background that goes, I don't know about this. Yeah.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
open the chapter with, a story of being told very many times growing up that I should have never been born. And in the moment of hearing that, I would reject it, right? I'm like, that's not true. Like I had this very strong sense of self, like whatever, like that. But what happens is after hearing it dozens and dozens of times, it gets back into the subconscious and the unconscious.
Yeah.
And that's where we are actually creating our life from. None of us were taught that we're all, infinitely powerful beings that can, shapeshift and sculpt our reality. Like it's like, okay, you're kind of stuck with what you're stuck with. And yeah,
Mhm.
you can, that kind of American dream. Okay, you can, if you believe it, you can achieve it, that kind of thing. But, if there's this belief there that says, no, you can't, that belief is going to override your consciousness
Yeah.
saying, yes, I can, yes, I can, yes, I can. And so
Mhm.
we're looking at those unconscious and subconscious patterns in the work that I do, and pulling that root from the source so it's not affecting the daily life any longer.
How did you wind up into this?
It's definitely a long story. So, and I kind of talk a little bit about that in the chapter too, that I naturally was very multisensory, had kind of ESP, very unusual experiences as a child. So my parents would have card night and I'd be going around the table at 9 and 10 years old, like, oh, your kidney chi is really off. You need some dangguai. And people would look at me like, what are you talking about? And so I turned a lot of it off at a young age because there was that rejection factor. Oh, clearly I'm saying something that's making people uncomfortable. Clearly I'm not doing something, that I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable, that kind
Right.
of thing. And so years later, after my first divorce, I was back home at a pub with an old friend of mine, and I was in the back of it going to my car in the parking lot, and this gentleman walks up to me, and he looks at me, and he's like, "Are you so and so's daughter?" I'm like, "Yeah," and he says, "I used to go to your parents' house for cards, and one day you came up to me and you spoke a message in my soul that has stayed with me my entire life. Thank you for changing
Wow.
my life. Thank you for I'm just so blown away that I get to tell you thank you. I hope you're using your gift." And at that time, I was a massage therapist full time. I had done some coaching training. So I do have a master's in coaching, but I wasn't using it.
Mhm.
And something in me just kind of said, it's time. And so I went home from my vacation at home, right? Back home away from home. And I just kind of sat, okay, how do I want to do this? How do I want to get out there?
Mhm.
So I just started a Facebook channel called I think Awakening or Activating the Witch Within, which was kind of a pun on the word witch, in the sense of, like just our original medicine and our using herbs and the kind of taking the sting out of the word because there's still a sting to it. And I just went on a weekly show. I think those YouTubes are still up there, which is so funny. Uh, and, I would just talk, and I started with a client or two here or there. Within 2 years, I had worked with hundreds of people in like 30 countries within like 2 years. I mean, it just
Wow.
took on a life of its own. I couldn't have even planned for it to take off the way that it did. And now I teach groups. I do a lot of group work. I do a lot of individual work in terms of, deep mentorship and shamanic, guiding. And it's just, there's never a boring day at the office. I can say that.
You don't have to look up some of those old videos.
It's pretty funny. Like, I haven't looked at them. I'm like, oh gosh.
I know we all do that, right? When we think about our early work, like, oh wow, did I really do that? Did I say that?
Yeah.
Look at my hair then, yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All that crazy stuff. That's amazing. So your chapter is called A Dream to Remember.
Mm-hmm.
And so where did that come from? I want to know.
Well, I call myself a dream walker. So this is where you have different, like, there's kind of the regular subconscious kind of working themselves out dreams. Then you
Mhm.
have more lucid dreams, and then you have things like being able to astral project, leave your body, see things that are going on in real time or in the future or in the past. And so those types of very visceral, I'll call them, awaking in a dream states, were experiences I've had since I was a child. So, for instance, I dreamt about all of 9/11 the night before it happened. So, when it was happening in real time the next day, it was like one full long deja vu all day long. And I was only 21 at the time, aging myself, but I had never experienced anything like that before, and it really threw me off. Why did I see something that I couldn't affect or change?
Right.
Why? Like, and so it kind of, I kind of turned all the dreams off for a little while after that because it was so uncomfortable to have
Well,
your
it's gotta be
reality.
frightening, and not only frightening, but then, like I said, sitting there and being perplexed with, okay, so why was I shown this
Yeah.
if I couldn't do anything about it?
Well, and I had had deja vu experiences like that before where I would dream an entire day in my sleep and then wake up and live the entire thing that I had dreamt the night before. So I had had those experiences, not totally quite all that often, but enough times to know,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, I need to pay attention tonight because this is going to be happening tomorrow. So I'd have some sort of sense about that. When I was in my mid 30s, was when I had one of the most profound dream walks where I woke up floating in the middle of space. And I had thought I died. So I woke up and I'm literally in the middle of space and I'm looking around 300. I'm like, I was like something out of a movie. You'd see it, just being
Right.
awestruck.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh crap, I died. No, like my kids. And I'm like freaking out. And then I look down, I'm like, no, I'm all here. I'm breathing. And I reach my hands up and I'm in this kind of little pod type of, like, invisible. There was, I was in some sort of invisible pod that I could breathe in. And as soon as
Mhm.
I knew I was safe and I could take it in, I'm like, it mesmerized. I mean, it was the most, it was so, there's not even words. It was so viscerally awe-inspiring, just all-encompassing peace. I was by myself, but yet I felt one with everything. I mean, it was a pure experience of ecstatic oneness and joy. And then I would travel place to place the whole night. And, like a drop of water flying down Niagara Falls, going through these wormholes and then stopping at the next place. And I woke up from that experience completely changed. And, I started my business actually shortly thereafter. So that happened not that long after having that conversation with the gentleman back home. And, I just had the sense that if we all collectively were to experience that together, we would live in a new world, like, almost,
Mhm.
immediately. Like, it would just blows your perception of reality up.
I was just going to say, what was that perceptual change for you?
how special it is to be alive, how oh, how the just the how small we all are and how big we all are, that duality of, like each one and every one of us is as magnificent as a nebulae or a star or a planet, and just how precious life is.
Yeah. It changes your perspective immensely. I can see how that would do that.
Yeah.
Um, You, by the way, we are at the halfway point, and so I like to remind people around this time, if you're tuning into this thing late for some reason, you want to go back and pay attention to Tanja from the beginning, because there's some fascinating stuff in this conversation. You're going to be just as mesmerized as I am with all of this. So please go back and listen. We are speaking with Tanja Bartolo, and she is an energy healer and a soul alchemist. And we're having a really delightful conversation. And one of the things that really stands out was a moment ago when you talked about this experience that you had in your dream, and you said, "Oh crap, I died." And I'm like, that is kind of hysterical and also frightening at the same time. So I even wrote down, "Oh crap, I died," just because it just stood out to me. Because I'm thinking, I think so many of us would feel the same way, and I think so many folks who have passed probably are sitting out there in the ether or wherever you want to call it, going, "Oh crap, I died," looking back at what happened to their life. And I wonder, if we look back at our lives, what what do we feel? What do we want to feel that we have achieved? So, Tanya, I'm going to ask you
Mm.
that deep question, right? If you could look back on your life, where what do you hope that you have, when the time comes when you really say, "Oh crap, I died," and it's for real? What do you want to have achieved by at the end of that?
I'm gonna answer this
I
in
didn't mean to take this so
no,
deep, but I
no,
just
no,
want to
I'm
do
gonna
that.
answer it in 2 parts because I dreamt 60 years in one night's sleep once. So in these dream walks, I've had all sorts of very interesting experiences. We haven't talked about the dream that I wrote about in the chapter yet, but this seems relevant because I live day after day, week after week, month after month in this for at least 60 years in about a 6-hour stretch of sleep. And I woke up with 60 years of memories flooding into my brain at one
Whoa,
point.
whoa.
And when I had aged to the part where I was getting ready to transition and my hands were wrinkled and I was worn out and I was tired, and it was more futuristic than it is today. So maybe, let's fast forward from where we are, maybe 50 years was kind of the vibe of where I was living. And I was really sad. And I had lived this very, purpose-filled, driven life. I had made a lot of change. I had made a lot of difference, and yet I put everyone first.
Hmm.
And when I woke up realizing, "Okay, yay, I'm still here." I went into this inquiry of what was that about, and it was the message I got was, "Well, are you gonna keep choosing the bleeding heart timeline?" To where the mission is so much more important than you, and you end up leaving feeling, you know, like you missed out on living because you were so focused on
Mhm.
doing the work that you
Yeah.
forgot to include yourself. Can you be equal to the mission?
Wow.
So, to answer your question, when I do breathe out, for the final time, yay, I lived a life that I can be proud of internally,
Yeah.
not just externally.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. As so many of us, especially who wind up in the coaching arena, coaches and mentors. We always want to do for others, and I know I get my personal reward watching, my clients transition and transform and all of that. And when I first retired from the day job and came into this realm and started doing this full time, I realized that I was filling every moment of my calendar. I left no time for myself or even my family. I just kept doing and doing and doing. And I came to a realization that busy is an acronym, which stands for basically underserving yourself.
Mm, yes.
And so,
It's so
this
easy to slip into it. And you can slip into it without even realizing that that's what
boom.
you're slipping into. It's just, when I started doing this and I was building my website and I hosted a summit on my own and I did this and I did that, I was probably working 80 hours a week
Yep.
the first year or two that I got this
Hmm.
off the ground. And yes, I'm glad I did that because it definitely yielded amazing results. But I wasn't living for me. I was just like, okay, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this.
Yes. Hmm.
And as I've grown as an entrepreneur, I have clearly seen the result of the more I take care of myself, the more fun I have, the more I just can unplug, the more results I do achieve. And again, that's that shifting the perspective because we're so used to that go, go, go mentality
Right.
that it's really challenged my own viewpoint of success that as that inner well is filled up, you're giving from overflow versus trying to give from an empty tank and you're just going to keep getting that empty tank back.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's deep, and I love it, and that is so, enlightening, and illuminating the way you said that, and I actually am taking notes while we're going, because it is so true. Um, Tanya, you had alluded to, the fact that there was a particular dream that you wrote about in the book. I have not read, volume 20 yet, so I'd like you to share a little bit about what you put in the book and what particularly you wanted people to get from this story.
I'm laughing because the nature of our reality has not the way I perceive reality is very different than the one that we've been taught. And I think the purpose of writing this was just to show that there is another perspective of the nature of this place that is beyond what we have been told.
Mhm.
um that we have access to a super consciousness, that we have access to what we can call the akashic or the hall of records, that we have access to that which is not physical. And I think my stories are a beautiful representation of how that can show up in real time. When I have a dream walk, I am usually shown something very tangible, either right away or at some point in the future that points back and says, "Yes, you were here. Yes, this
Right.
happened. Yes, this is really real." And when you can start to kind of see that The Matrix, the movie, was a docudrama versus just some sci-fi novel, it's kind of peering into that world of there's more here than we've been taught or told. And,
Mhm.
we trust Wi-Fi because we're having this conversation right now on it, right? We can't see it, but we can see the tangible result of it working on our screen. We can
Exactly. Yeah.
hear the radio waves when we're in the car. So there's that tangible component of, okay, yes, I can hear this.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of shining the light on how we are all those receivers and those antennas, vibrationally speaking, as electromagnetic beings. And we can start to use those skills even if we weren't taught at any age because we all have them.
So share just a little bit about the story that highlights this for us.
So I talk about meeting my grandfather in a dream walk when I was 25. And at 25, I had already gone through what felt like two lives. I had gone through a lot at that age, and I felt very renewed and very excited for life again, like I was on a big upswing. I had just finished massage school. I was, I had met my first husband. We were planning a family. Like there was a lot of positive movement and momentum.
Mhm.
And so I wake up in the dream. I usually wake up in the dream, and I'm laying in my childhood uh, bedroom in my old bedroom at my old home in bed, and the room breathes open. It's the best way to describe it. And then there's a gentleman standing at the foot of my bed in maybe 30s work overalls, and I take one look at him, and I knew who he was. I'm like, oh, Opa, and he's like, hi, honey. And I jump up and I wrap my arms around him. He had passed away when I was a baby, and I had never met him. I'm crying like, and it was like hugging heaven. And so we
Mhm.
spent the whole night talking. And he, at the end of the conversation, so I go into it in the book, but at the end of the conversation, he had a warning for me. He just said, okay, I came to tell you that you haven't seen the worst of it yet. Like you are going to really go through
Mm.
it. It's going
Oof.
to get so hard. You are going to want to leave. You might even try to leave,
Mm.
but we're not going to let you. You're going to have to stay. And when the worst is behind you, I will send you a message, and you will know that the worst is behind you. And of course, I'm freaking out. I'm like, what are you talking about? What's going to happen? What's this? What's that? And then he's like, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. I'm just giving you a heads up. And of course, I'm like completely like, no,
I
I
don't want to deal with
don't
anything.
want to deal with this. And then he goes, okay, well, never mind that. Let me show you, let me show you what the most important thing that we're going to talk about today. And I don't talk about this part in the chapter. I don't talk about the concluding of the dream in the chapter. He said, he says, you need to remember this. You need to remember this. If anything we talked about today, you need to remember this. And he shows me a sketch, a black and white sketch, because we don't have cameras on the other side. So this is the best thing I could do. And I'm like, huh? And it's him and another guy wearing wigs and making funny faces. And I look at him like cross-dressing in heaven. What is going on here? And he's like, no, Billy, you like that's not what this is at all. Just remember this photo. And so then we say goodbye. It was very emotional. I woke up bawling, like gutturally crying, like in a way, like tears that were, from the deepest part of my soul crying. And the next day I call my mom, and she's not really, we don't really see eye to eye when it comes to my experiences and things like that. More recently we do, but back then definitely not. She's like, "Oh, that's nice, honey. That's nice. That's really nice." And I'm like, "Oh, oh, what was that thing?" And so I describe the sketch to her, and she starts crying. And she said, "When I was a little girl and sad, he would put on Oma's wigs and make funny faces to cheer me up."
Oh my God. Wow. And there was
And
the validation
yeah,
right there. Right
yeah,
there.
yeah. So
Tanya, I wish we had more time. We are right at the top of it, and do have to wrap this. I have found recently that this program will cut us off, so I want to make sure that we wrap this up. We've got less than a minute left. What is the one thing you want people to remember? And I'm going to put your website out there. Everybody, learn more about Tanya Bartolo at tanyabartolo.com, and also read her chapter in volume 20 of Cracking the Rich Code, and connect with her on LinkedIn or on Facebook. She actually does both. And she said, actually, Facebook, you might reach her a little faster, but she's on both LinkedIn and Facebook. But with that, Tanya, what's one last thing in this last 30 seconds that you want to leave people with?
just gonna say, remember who you are. That's the last thing. Just this life is a whole long journey of remembering who you are. and
I
it's
love
my
it.
pleasure to support others in remembering more of their depth and more of who they are, and thank you